the answer as well. And the current cause for the obesity epidemic, and I always like to say, Dr. Sue, that we're not dealing with an epidemic, say, in our nation. We're dealing with a pandemic. This is a worldwide thing. And I really enjoyed the way you opened the show and speaking about how being overweight was viewed upon as, healthy in a sense that you had money. So, if you were overweight, that meant you can afford more food, and that was viewed as, you being successful. And it's not that anymore. I mean, we don't view it like that, being overweight. But it's a pandemic. It's a worldwide problem with obesity, and the current cause of the current obesity epidemic or pandemic is the fact that we're eating as a society, as a global society, too much in the way of carbohydrates, and we're not eating enough fat, cholesterol, and protein. And I get a lot of flack back on that because, the current thought, is that we're in order to lose weight, to cure the obesity problem, is to eat less fat, less cholesterol, and we worship and we adore things like whole grains, multi-grains, 7 grains, whole wheat pasta, brown rice, oatmeal, and fruit. And these very things are the things that are creating and allowing the perpetuation and continuation of the obesity epidemic. And it gets deep, it gets deep because, you have major organizations that are backed by government and, private sectors, such as the American Heart Association, the American Cancer Society, the American Diabetes Association, the National Institutes of Health, the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute, the current Surgeon General, even Michelle Obama's current, I believe it's the Let's Move campaign, is based, the common denominator is low-fat, low-cholesterol eating styles, and it's just plain wrong. And we need to start understanding, and I want to stress this, whenever, I'm privileged enough to be interviewed, I like to stress the fact that you and I, Dr. Sue, we don't believe anything, all right, as far as, what we understand to be true. Because this is not a belief, opinion, theory, or supposition. The problem that we're having, the reason, the cause of the current obesity epidemic is because we're believing that eating fat and cholesterol is dangerous, and we're not understanding that eating fat and cholesterol is safe, and that it's the very things that we worship and adore, the things that I refer to as wolves in sheep's clothing. Those are the brown foods I mentioned, oatmeal and fruit and all that. Those are the foods that are creating the current obesity epidemic. But as I went through organ systems before, cardiology, cardiovascular, GI, oncology, and respiratory, it's not just obesity, being the main problem. I mean, there's so many offshoots, medical problem-wise, that this is a huge, issue. You solve the obesity epidemic / pandemic, you've just eradicated the vast majority of, say, heart disease and type 2 diabetes, and you're going to lower the amount of cancers we see. I mean, could you imagine the impact on our current economy if we could impact the obesity and fix this problem, for which we have the answer now, like how much money, we'd be saving. And we wouldn't be spending money on drugs, because a lot of these drugs we use, cholesterol-lowering drugs just pop into my mind. And I always kind of find that interesting, because lowering cholesterol has never been shown to lower anyone's risk for heart disease. But we have all of these medications being used, for me, unnecessarily. And the only thing that I've seen in my practice get people healthy, get them off medications, and help them lose weight, it has been a low-carb eating style, and eating the very things they're told not to eat. That's the fat, and that's the cholesterol. Protein gets kind of like an equivocal bad rap, because it's like, well, you can eat protein, but don't eat too much of it because it'll cause liver failure or it'll damage your kidneys, which is absolutely false.
I agree. I know that. And besides, I try to reinforce what you say. Healthcare costs is going up so much, but it is not because we want to spend much more. It's because people need healthcare. And why they need healthcare? Because they're not healthy. So in order to reduce the healthcare spending, we got to make the people healthy. To make the people healthy, got to make them eat the right thing.
Right. And basically, and we're battling major organizations. Like, how does a guy like me, a solo practitioner in Port Jefferson, New York, how does a solo practitioner like me battle these major organizations? Well, one way is by writing a book and entitling it Genocide. And as we spoke before, I think the title is very apropos. And I got a lot of flack on that title. Change it. It's a bad title, but it's not a bad title. It's exactly representative of what's happening in our society. And millions of people are maimed and killed every year due to physicians' dietary ignorance. But you know what? It's okay because the drug companies are getting richer off that, right? So why would we want to change anything? I mean, we can go into the lobbying and all that, but the fact of the matter is what you said is right on. We need health care because we're unhealthy.
That's correct. Well, we'll be back in a moment.
You are listening to the Carbohydrates Can Kill show, brought to you by JEV Publishing, the exclusive agent for promotion and distribution of Dr. Sue's book, Carbohydrates Can Kill. This is the most comprehensive book to ever explain why and how carbohydrates are dangerous to your health. Along with a chapter of nutrition and metabolism, it shows how being overweight or obese affects your health and how carbohydrate-rich foods are responsible for these conditions. This book also includes a 6-year record of Dr. Sue's personal experiments, showing how he managed to lose weight and restore his health from having serious cardiovascular problems to being fit, trim, and healthy. It also provides you with synopses of 135 studies that demonstrate the links between carbohydrates and your health problems. Don't miss the chapter summarizing why carbohydrates can kill and suggestions for you to maintain good health with dietary changes. Dr. Sue is on a mission to improve and preserve the health of you and your loved ones. If you like Dr. Sue's show and his blogs, you can help us support this mission in several ways. If you'd like to own a copy of Dr. Sue's book, Carbohydrates Can Kill, or if you want to order one for a family member or friend, please order it from us at JEV Publishing. We'll send you your copy bearing a commemorative seal and Dr. Sue's autograph right away. If you and a group of friends or coworkers wish to read the book, you can order it from us in bulk at a special discounted price. You can also order this informative and inspirational book for your employees at this bargain rate to improve their health and save your company and your employees from excessive health care costs. With your order of Dr. Sue's book, you are helping us support Dr. Sue in his mission of spreading this message of health, hopefully to as many people as possible, as far as he can. The Carbohydrates Can Kill show has a diverse audience, all sharing an interest in one thing: living a healthy lifestyle. If you wish to build awareness of your company's brand, services, or product with this motivated and engaged audience, please contact us at jevpublishing@verizon.net to place an advertisement in an upcoming episode or on the show's website at www.carbohydratescankill.com. Your advertisement will connect you with Dr. Sue's listeners. By sponsoring the Carbohydrates Can Kill show, you will be helping Dr. Sue spread his important message. Working together, we can change the health of the world for the better. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Welcome back to the Carbohydrates Can Kill show. I am Robert Sue, MD. Let's continue our interview with Dr. James E. Carlson on obesity and its related issues. Welcome back, Dr. Carlson.
Great to be back.
Good. Recently, there's a such thing so-called fat gene. They discovered fat gene. So any comments as to the recent fat gene discovery?
Yeah, I got on the internet like we all do in the morning. This was this past Monday, and I see this mention as to a fat gene discovery. So I did a little, research on it. And my initial impression though was that I just kind of shook my head in somewhat, mild disdain because, the medical profession and scientists. I mean, these discoveries are extremely important. Don't get me wrong. That's not what I'm trying to say. But they're making it sound like if we manipulate, and I'm not going to get into the sequencing or the coding or how close to the centromere it was with the chromosome. The thought is that now we can develop drugs. we can develop drugs to target whatever this gene, whatever protein it's translating or whatever. And it's always drugs. You know, we're a drug society. And so I read through this article, and then actually it was back in 2007 that we discovered, the fat gene to begin with. But I was kind of, again, frustrated because, the scientists and the physicians are making it more complicated than it is. They're thinking that by discovering this fat gene and how it's, in part of the gene that encodes for diabetes and that it also increases the risk for breast cancer. Great discovery, but it's all about, promoting or developing and promoting drugs. And, we don't, not that I don't enjoy the molecular biology, by golly, or biochemistry. That was my major. This is something I love. But we need to start understanding that we have at our disposal right now the cure for the vast majority of obesity for the obesity epidemic. And I say for the vast majority because there are certain genetic conditions, Prader-Willi comes to mind, where you really need gene manipulation to quote unquote, treat or cure that. But the vast majority of people who are obese, this fat gene discovery is more academic than anything once you understand the correct way to eat.
Right. Yeah. Well, gene is something now I'm not very, very specialized in gene, or not at all. But however, it's interesting to see genetic mutation happens when blood sugar goes up. And I do not know if this is a fat gene also part of that kind of mutation, or simply that was inherited from upper generations. So I agree with you. But the discovery of fat gene seems to me they more like say, well, sorry, you got a fat gene, so you got to be obese. The next thing you have to do is just what you say, take this drug, that drug. I think that is not a medicine I would like to practice.
It's gonna start, labeling, like if they, okay, now we have a fat gene. Okay, so now we're gonna if you're obese, are we going to check you for this fat gene? And if we check you for it, is that it? I mean, we throw the towel in there. Oh, sorry, you got the fat gene. You're gonna be heavy the rest of your life. And I think that it could have a detrimental effect or impact. But only time will tell us. We'll see. See what happens with that.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a wrong thing. But next, I would like to ask you, the 2010 USDA dietary guidelines have been published. We had a big argument last year, but unfortunately, not much we could have done. So what are your comments on that?
Thank you so much for asking that question. I was actually very honored and humbled and privileged to be asked by the Weston A. Price Foundation to speak about my take on the USDA 2010 dietary guidelines. And I was at the National Press Club down in D.C. on February 14th of this year, 2011. And there was actually a panel of speakers. One gentleman was from the Salt Institute. Pamela Schoenfeld was there. Adele Heath was there. Of course, Sally Morell was there. And, a couple of other speakers and all. And we had a great, I believe, panel discussion. Two words came to mind when I read through the 2010 USDA dietary guidelines. And this is what I said, when I was at my presentation. The two words that came to mind when I read through these guidelines were incredulity and disdain. I could not believe that the USDA was that blind as to how the correct way to eat, should be. And it wasn't until Adele Heath's presentation, and basically she read through the 2010 dietary guidelines. And I have to say this, and this is what really, caused my frustration greatly, is that it says, too, evidence-based guidelines. Right? And now, as a clinician, we read evidence-based guidelines as meaning this is the be-all, end-all, man. We got all the information we need. Nobody can, question us. We got it. It's factual. It's here. But now when Adele got up and gave her presentation and she read through the guidelines, she actually equated it to, I believe, Alice in Wonderland, just like, through the looking glass and everything looping back on itself. There were absolutely no evidence-based studies at all
for
these guidelines. None.
Yeah.
And also, these guidelines were developed behind closed doors. The public wasn't allowed, in on it. The, physicians weren't allowed in on it, outside physicians, that is. They were basically a spin-off of the old dietary guidelines. And for the listeners, basically these guidelines still perpetuate and promote low fat, low cholesterol, more whole grains, more fruit, and, it's frustrating for the people who understand the correct way to eat, because when these guidelines were published, last week, it was major news. Mm-hmm. And millions of people around the world are seeing this via internet or TV, and they're believing this stuff. And it's only going to perpetuate not only the obesity epidemic, but, all of those disease entities attributed or found with obesity. These things are going to be perpetuated. You're not going to cure any problems. You're not going to have people come off medications. You're just going to perpetuate your current obesity pandemic.
Well, I think they basically, I think they truly believe in this, but anyway, they brainwash the public with such a thing, such a thought. Say, eating fat makes us fat, doesn't it?
Right. And it's such a myth. That's actually dietary myth number one, right, that I say to my patients. Eating fat makes us fat. And I'll look at them and I'll say, eating fat doesn't make us fat so long we're not overeating carbohydrates with that fat. Eating fat doesn't make us fat. What most people don't understand is that the body prefers free fatty acids for fuel, all right, for energy in the form of ATP. And, skeletal muscle, the heart or myocardium, a certain region of the kidney, and the byproducts of free fatty acid metabolism known as ketone bodies, the brain prefers that for fuel. And it's a perpetuated myth, and it has to stop. But you know what? Fats, F-A-T-S, fats have become a four-letter word. And we fear it, and we run in the other direction. And I always love saying this to my patients, going through how much saturated fat is in foods. I like to say, when you're eating a piece of red meat, it's mostly saturated fat, correct? And I'll ask physicians this too. And they'll be like, yeah, it's mostly saturated fat. And I'm like, no, it's not mostly saturated fat. It's 45% saturated. And then I'll turn my attention to pork fat, lard. Mm-hmm. And I'll be like, that's saturated fat predominantly, right? And people will say, yeah. And I'll say, no, it's not. It's 60% unsaturated, okay? 60% unsaturated. Going back to red meat, 55% of that fat is unsaturated. Oh. Moving on to chicken fat, right? You have to remove the skin from the chicken. It's bad for us, right? That's 80% unsaturated. Robert, 80% unsaturated. It's 20% saturated. But and this is coming from Dr. Mary Enig. I got to give her credit. Dr. Mary Enig's wonderful book, Know Your Fats, which I learned a lot about the fats and all. And it's just our ignorance is just so profound. And this is continuing on in these 2010 USDA dietary guidelines.
Right. So don't we need to count the calories to help us lose weight?
Right. This is going back to the USDA dietary guidelines where we need to start eating more nutrient-dense foods, less, in the way of fat because, all this. Basically, eating fat, 1 gram of fat actually has more quote-unquote calories in it. But my basic take on calories is that calories are irrelevant in human nutrition. This is dietary myth number 3. All right, calories are irrelevant in human nutrition. The definition of a calorie we learn in undergraduate school. What is it? It's the amount of heat needed to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water by 1 degree Celsius, mm-hmm. From 14.4 to 15.4 degrees, something like that. And then I'll look at my patients when I explain calories, and I'll say, what does that mean to you? And, of course, they're all confused. They're like, nothing. I don't really understand what you're saying. And I actually had a conversation with a thermochemist, biochemist. He emailed me, and he goes, you're right on. And he started throwing, like, the Gibbs free energy equation at me, and, yeah, I've seen that in undergraduate. I haven't played with it in years. And he was saying, you're right on. You're making perfect sense and all this. But calories are irrelevant. And we don't need to count calories to help us lose weight. And it wasn't until I really looked at the caloric intake of my patients, my obese and morbidly obese patients, and started noticing that they were doubling and tripling their caloric intake, but yet they were losing weight, and they were not exercising more, that I started to question the validity of the calorie.
Yeah, so that means that exercise is not really the most important aspect of weight loss, right?
Absolutely not. Exercise, it's important now. Some people misconstrue what I'm saying. Exercise is absolutely important for cardiovascular health, for muscle health, for bone health, for immunological health, and I can go on with that. Actually, exercise, believe it or not, has been shown to allow neurons, which we used to think did not replicate. They actually allow the neurons in the brain to replicate, to divide. But, having said all that, exercise for some people is downright negligent. Like if you're morbidly obese and you come to see me, and I say, you know what, you're 450 pounds, start, running and jogging and get to the gym, now we're worried about orthopedic problems and, of course, heart problems, blood pressure problems. I have had patients take off, thousands of pounds collectively by watching their carb intake, lowering the consumption of carbs, of course, losing a good 50, 75, maybe even 100 pounds, and now I allow them to embark on an exercise regimen. Let me just, as an aside, they also will get usually the non-treadmill nuclear stress test to make sure their hearts are okay. But exercise is not the most important aspect of weight loss. And you hear this all the time. Well, if you can't exercise, well, why even bother dieting? Right? What's the point? But you can, like I said, you can take off significant amounts of weight. I've seen it firsthand without, exercising at all.
Yeah. Well, I think that the point is that exercise is important for physical shape up, but it's not important for the weight loss. No. Okay, we'll be back in a moment.
Today's episode of the Carbohydrates Can Kill podcast is brought to you in cooperation with Disc of Light Media. Learn about our audio production and consulting options, find out about our WordPress blog design service, or just drop us a line by visiting www.discoflight.com.
Hey, this is Jimmy Moore from the Livin' La Vida Low Carb Show. If you or someone you know is suffering from diabetes, obesity, or metabolic syndrome, then you're probably pretty well aware right now that it is causing great damage to our health, and it's pretty much caused by the high-carb diets that have been pushed on us by the U.S. government and some powerful medical organizations out there. Isn't it great to know that we have an organization that is on our side? They're called the Nutrition and Metabolism Society, and they need your help in helping to distribute information to help promote low-carb diets in the mainstream so that the health of our population can be improved. So I definitely want to encourage you to visit nmsociety.org. Not just visit, but once you're there, join them, become a member of this really exciting organization, and thank you so very much.
Welcome back to the Carbohydrates Can Kill Show. I'm Robert Su, MD. Let's continue our interview with Dr. James E. Carlson on obesity and its related issue. Welcome back, Dr. Carlson. My next question is, it seems to me that you will tell your patient to eat more fat and cholesterol. Isn't that negligence?
Yeah, I do hear that. It's interesting, too, because, what's being said out there, low fat, low cholesterol, eating fat makes you fat, eating more cholesterol causes heart disease. Dietary myth number 2 is that, you hear that eating more fat, saturated fat, and cholesterol increases your risk for heart disease. That's absolutely false. And by the way, eating more fat, saturated fat, and cholesterol not only helps with weight loss, not only helps lower blood pressure, not only helps cure, prevent, or treat type 2 diabetes, and it treats type 1 as well, although you'll still need to be taking insulin and all. It's not negligence. It's the correct way to be eating. And my big problem here is that when we look at the low-fat, low-cholesterol eating style, this goes back to what I refer to as a priori reasoning, which doesn't, or deductive reasoning, which doesn't always work in medicine. It works sometimes, but not in others. Now, I don't want to, lose anybody. Basically, deductive reasoning goes something like this, right? I'm at the beach. I'm standing on the shore. I'm looking out at the horizon. The horizon's flat. I got it. The world must be flat. Now, no one's going to adhere to that line of reasoning, right? Because here it is as applied to human nutrition. If I'm overweight, then I must be eating too much fat. Because I'm overweight, I have more fat on my body, I must be eating more fat, right? And that's wrong, okay? Actually, they're not eating enough fat, which is very paradoxical, very counterintuitive, but it's true. Here is applied to cholesterol. If my total cholesterol in my blood is elevated, it must be because I'm eating too much cholesterol in my diet, right? And that's wrong as well. Going back to the 1950s, I'm stealing this from Gary Taubes, Good Calories, Bad Calories. I give him due credit for that. He mentioned studies where the people who had the lowest risk for heart disease had their totals in the 240 to 280 range. A little entity we did not know about then, the HDL, was obviously elevated in these people who did not suffer heart attacks. They actually had less heart attacks. Now, I say, you look at 240 to 280 now, total cholesterol, people freak out, and they think the total cholesterol need to be below 200.
Right. Yeah.
Which is absolutely false. And total cholesterol, I mean, this is simple, basic, like third-grade math, okay? Total cholesterol is the summation of the carrier molecules of cholesterol. So your total cholesterol equals your HDL, which is generally called the good cholesterol, plus your LDL, which is mistakenly generally viewed as your bad cholesterol, but there's some molecular categorizations of LDL which make it a good cholesterol, which can make it a good cholesterol. Let me rephrase that. Plus your VLDL, which is the function of triglycerides, right? So if your HDL is elevated, a lot of times it's going to drive up your total.
Right.
And that's healthy. And if your trigs are low, as they should be, or sometimes if if your trigs are low, that could drop your total cholesterol as well. I mean, this is simple, basic mathematics. My point is that telling my patients to eat more fat, or telling anyone to eat more fat and cholesterol, is not negligence. All right, it's actually the correct way to eat. And it's just amazing. And you were mentioning this before, how most people really believe the low fat, low cholesterol myth.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Well, you already mentioned that the simply calorie is not the most important. We should count in order to lose weight. So-called less calories in and more calories out really does not matter a whole lot to weight loss. Am I correct?
No, yeah, definitely. That's definitely correct. I remember when I used to round in the hospitals, I would see these signs at the nursing station. Eat. What did it say? Eat less, move more. Yeah. Eat less, move more. And I would chuckle at that, because you have these people, and they're stair steppers and they're ellipticals, and all this, and they're literally killing themselves trying to burn calories, and they're struggling to take the weight off. Where you have a person who just backs off on their carbs and they do exercise, and it's really kind of like very, very easy for them to take weight off. This is actually part of the whole Let's Move campaign, right, by Michelle Obama. And I don't pick, I really can't pick on Michelle Obama directly, because all she's doing, now she's a huge figurehead, of course, and her message is heard by millions and millions of people worldwide. But, she's just falling into the old adage, low fat, low cholesterol, whole grains are good. She's, of course, part of the problem, but she's just perpetuating the myth.
Right. Well, I think, she ought to bring the correct message instead of using those unfounded evidence for so many decades and try to use it in a campaign. Well, it's very sad to see that. I would rather to ask her to find out what is the real scientific evidence to support the means of weight loss. But anyway, what are your comments on bariatric surgery?
That's a very interesting question. And as a family practitioner, I have to do preoperative consultations to clear people for bariatric surgery. This, of course, is the classic gastric bypass. Many people probably heard of the lap band, and now there's a new procedure called a gastric sleeve. I'm not against these surgeries, which comes as a shock to a lot of my low carb, fans and all that. I'm not against the surgeries. Okay, they're an adjunct. All right, they're helpful. To people who are morbidly obese, who need to, lose weight, who've tried many different ways to lose weight. They're an adjunct. A little secret history about the bariatric surgery: about 10 to 15 years after the bariatric surgery, most people with the surgery gain all their weight back, be it 100, 150 pounds. And the reason is quite simple. The answer is that they're eating. I'll go back to eating too many carbs. For the gastric bypass, the stomach stretches again, and then they're able to accommodate what they were eating before. It's interesting that you even mentioned this, because just this week alone, and it's only Tuesday, I had to clear 3 people so far to have their lap band reversed because of complications from the lap band. This is, as the name suggests, a little band that goes around the first part of the stomach to, again, make it smaller, and they blow it up or shrink it depending on the needs and all that. And it's interesting. After getting back to, after the lap bands and gastric bypasses, I'll take the dietary guidelines that they give from the bariatric surgery centers. I'll look at them, and I have my little Sharpie with me, and I'll just put lines through it, because what they're promoting is the whole grains, the multigrains, the 7 grains, the whole wheat pasta, the brown rice, the oatmeal, and the fruit, and that's just wrong. That low fat, low cholesterol, and what they're doing is, without realizing it, is they're giving the people, all the information they need to regain the weight back. And I was at a conference a few years ago where it was a bariatric surgeon giving a lecture on bariatric surgery, as you might imagine. And he actually said this. I'm sitting in the back, and there's a group of maybe 400 of us. And he made the statement, we don't really understand why all this weight is being regained. And I had to just bite my lip, because I'm, despite what people may think of me, I'm really not all that confrontational. I had to bite my lip from saying, I have the answer. And it's not that I'm cocky or arrogant. It's that, I'm just understanding, what the problem is. The problem is you're having these people eat way too many carbs.
Right. Well, I think, the reason that we gain the weight back is those people probably, after the surgery, start going back to carbohydrate-rich diet. Nowadays, the post-operative diet for bariatric surgery is simply low-carb diet.
Right.
And the first thing they suggested, no sugar. And so I think this is a part of a low-carbohydrate diet in complement with bariatric surgery. And sidetrack a little bit from obesity, we see improvement in diabetes mellitus shortly after surgery. It simply is a result of less absorption of carbohydrates. And so I call it, this is a low carbohydrate by surgery force the people to eat the low carbohydrate diet. So I agree with you. I think, well, of course you say you'll not object to the surgery itself, but you also see people needs to reverse the surgery, and that's a problem.
It's interesting too, because with the surgery, like I like it when I get a patient who I can do a preoperative consultation on, because I'll tell them that be prepared to gain all the weight back, but if you don't, you listen to me. If you don't want to gain the weight back, you listen to me.
Right.
I've had a very good success rate, because I've been doing this. I've been around for about 20 years, so I've been able to keep the weight off people. But it's amazing when they go back and follow, going back to the carbs and the incorrect way to eat, thinking it's the correct way, how quickly they put the weight on,
Mm-hmm. Well, another topic I would like to ask you about, what about the fat blocker people are talking about?
Oh, yeah.
You're taking medications to block the fat absorption? Right.
That's, what is it? Well, I think that's Orlistat. Or I think the other name is Ali, A-L-L-I. Correct me on that. I'm pretty sure, because that's all over the place. Now, to me, understanding what's creating the whole obesity problem, the fat blockers are an example of the extreme, profound, abysmal ignorance of the creators of the medicine as to what's causing the obesity epidemic, because eating fat doesn't make us fat. Right, we learned that. And blocking fat, one of the most important and essential macronutrients, is downright dangerous. And what we see with these fat blockers, what I've seen is, malabsorption of your fat-soluble vitamins, A, D, E, and K. I've seen a multitude of complications with this. Like I said, malnourishment, improper loss of weight. I had to admit people to the hospital, taking these fat blockers. So I'm in awe of the ignorance, behind the whole fat blocker concept. And it just shows the extreme misunderstanding of biochemistry and our biophysiologies.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the drug company are doing is to simply try to alter the appearance of the disease, not try to address the roots of the problems. And that's a really, you block the fat, you're thinking that people would absorb less calories and with less fat. Well, for a short time, maybe so, but the long-term problem is big. For just what you say, those vitamins need to be absorbed with the fat, and then you can absorb the vitamins, and you got a vitamin shortage. Not only that, we have talked about it over and over again. We have so-called essential amino acid. We have talking about essential fatty acid. Nobody's talking about essential sugars.
Right. No.
Right. So
there are none.
Yeah. Exactly. So why block the fat in order to achieve weight loss? I don't understand the whole thing. Actually, you and I know that if we feed the patient with more fat, more protein, they feel full, and they don't want to eat more. On their own. You don't have to force them. Say, hey, don't eat this, don't eat more. They simply say, that's it. I can go more, and that's where to lose weight. Besides, we were talking about calories earlier. Suppose you feed a person, say, 2,500 calories. It does not mean all 2,500 calories will be absorbed by the gut. So
no, not at all. Right.
So counting calorie in, counting calorie out is really not the best way to do it. You really have to feed a person and make him feel, I'm full and I don't take any more. And then you can see less and less calories that he needs in order to sustain his life, his health. And that's where to go.
It's interesting you said that too, because getting back to the calorie, I gave the definition earlier, but we don't, like I said, we don't burn. Like when we eat food, it's not a combustion process like the whole determination of the calorie is. We digest, we don't combust. And, combustion in the calorimeter to determine the calorie, we know all the variables. We know, how much water, where we're starting out temperature-wise, how much, heat we're putting through the food to reduce it to carbon, the thickness of the calorimeter and all that. But like when you take anything, and you eat it, that's an open. The digestive process is an open system, and we're just learning. About we're only touching the tip of the iceberg as far as digestion. We just learned there's new medicines on the market for Januvia, for diabetes, like Januvia and Byetta, which work with, and correct me if I don't get this right, with the dipeptidyl peptidase, type 5 inhibitors or something like that. And they're genius, as far as understanding more digestive processes. But my point is, that enzyme's been around forever, and we're only starting to understand it now. So there's so many things that come into play when we eat something, when we digest. That's an open system. We just don't, and that's why, if you eat 2,500 calories, you're not absorbing 20, and I don't even know what that means. Like, I know what it means as far as, okay, I'm going to eat 2,500 calories of this food, but when I eat it, I'm not burning it. So I'm not going to raise my temperature.
That's right.
And get a fever. I'm being silly, of course, but, that's not how it works.
Right. Okay, we'll be back in a moment.
You are listening to the Carbohydrates Can Kill show, brought to you by JEV Publishing, the exclusive agent for promotion and distribution of Dr. Sue's book, Carbohydrates Can Kill. This is the most comprehensive book to ever explain why and how carbohydrates are dangerous to your health. Along with a chapter of nutrition and metabolism, it shows how being overweight or obese affects your health and how carbohydrate-rich foods are responsible for these conditions. This book also includes a 6-year record of Dr. Sue's personal experiments, showing how he managed to lose weight and restore his health from having serious cardiovascular problems to being fit, trim, and healthy. It also provides you with synopses of 135 studies that demonstrate the links between carbohydrates and your health problems. Don't miss the chapter summarizing why carbohydrates can kill and suggestions for you to maintain good health with dietary changes. Dr. Sue is on a mission to improve and preserve the health of you and your loved ones. If you like Dr. Sue's show and his blogs, you can help us support this mission in several ways. If you'd like to own a copy of Dr. Sue's book, Carbohydrates Can Kill, or if you want to order one for a family member or friend, please order it from us at JEV Publishing. We'll send you your copy bearing a commemorative seal and Dr. Sue's autograph right away. If you and a group of friends or coworkers wish to read the book, you can order it from us in bulk at a special discounted price. You can also order this informative and inspirational book for your employees at this bargain rate to improve their health and save your company and your employees from excessive health care costs. With your order of Dr. Sue's book, you are helping us support Dr. Sue in his mission of spreading this message of health, hopefully to as many people as possible, as far as he can. The Carbohydrates Can Kill show has a diverse audience, all sharing an interest in one thing: living a healthy lifestyle. If you wish to build awareness of your company's brand, services, or product with this motivated and engaged audience, please contact us at jevpublishing@verizon.net to place an advertisement in an upcoming episode or on the show's website at www.carbohydratescankill.com. Your advertisement will connect you with Dr. Sue's listeners. By sponsoring the Carbohydrates Can Kill show, you will be helping Dr. Sue spread his important message. Working together, we can change the health of the world for the better. Thank you very much.
Welcome back to the Carbohydrates Can Kill show. I'm Robert Sue, MD. Let's continue our interview with Dr. James E. Carlson on obesity and its related issues. Welcome back, Dr. Carlson. We were talking about blocker. So how about carb blockers? They are supposed to be good to prevent obesity. Am I correct?
I always chuckle. I get that question all the time about carb blockers. And I'll look at my patients square in the eye. I'm like, you want a carb blocker? Don't eat the carbs. That's a great block, you know. But then I'll say to them, okay, here's why carb blockers aren't going to work. Because you're eating the carbohydrates along with the carb blocker. Yeah, it's the carbohydrates that are creating the problem. But what's your middleman? You know, your middleman is basically, insulin. It's insulin that's creating the problem. So now you can eat the carbs and block the carbs, but what you really need to do is you need to block the insulin secretion. Because it's insulin that's creating the whole obesity problem, the weight gain, the inability to lose weight. So what you really need is an insulin blocker. But I don't think that'll be compatible with life. You really don't. I call insulin the dirty little hormone, somewhat as a joke. A little bit it's fine, but, a lot of it and you're in trouble. And then you wind up with metabolic syndrome. So carb blockers are a waste of your time. Don't waste your money on them. They're not blocking insulin. You don't want to block insulin. It's not compatible with health at all. And they're just a bad idea.
I see. Well, also in the market, a lot of dietary pill or diet pills.
Right.
Do you think that really have helped the millions to lose weight? Your comment?
Oh boy, I know millions and millions of people buy them. It's I'm sure $1 billion industry. When I was growing up in medicine, when I was a resident, we had access to fen-phen, which is phentolamine and phentermine, which has since been pulled from the market because it was causing something called pulmonary hypertension, which is an irreversible heart condition. With the arteries, the pulmonary arteries. And people died from that. But people are always reaching out for diet pills, help millions to lose weight. I mean, the amount of weight that these pills take off is minuscule. They really don't help you to lose if you need to lose 50, 75, 100. They're not going to. And the problem you run into is the profile of the vast majority of people who take diet pills. They're not your overweight, obese, or morbidly obese. They're your already, thin individual who wants to just take off a couple more pounds. And these things are very, very dangerous. And they do cause heart problems, and they can cause neurological problems. They can cause malnourishment, depletion of vitamin stores, vitamin D, vitamin B12, and all that. They're just dangerous pills. I get people in all the time asking about them. What's the last one? I haven't heard much about it. Give me a second. Meridia. All right, Meridia. And there was some chatter, and I didn't really look this up directly, but there was some chatter that Meridia was simply phentermine and phentolamine connected. So they connected the two molecules, and they came out with Meridia, which I thought was, very interesting. Certainly, we've heard of guarana, which is one of the stimulants that is, I think, a precursor to caffeine. A lot of these diet pills have stimulants in them. Speaking about stimulants like caffeine.
Right.
And I know you know this. I mean, way back before the fen days, we used methamphetamine. We used amphetamines.
Right. But see, those drugs can cause a lot of psychotic disorders.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So I tell you, I hope my readers doesn't go. I mean, my audience doesn't go to that route for weight loss. Well, do you have any comments on Weight Watchers such as Jenny Craig and so on?
I do, and I have a lot of patients who've used Weight Watchers and Jenny Craig over the years, mainly Weight Watchers. Weight Watchers is the biggest one. And I'm going to tell you right now that they lose weight, and they can lose significant amounts of weight, 30, 50, 75 pounds. The problem that I've seen, though, is that they can't come off their medications if they're taking meds for high blood pressure or type 2 diabetes, or if they have problems with high triglycerides or low HDLs. Those problems still remain despite the fact they lose weight. This was disconcerting to me, Robert, because you and I were taught medical school, take the weight off. Any way you get it off is going to be fine, and all of your health problems will go away. Well, you know what? I didn't see that, especially now. The only way I saw people coming off medications is if they went the low carb route and ate the very things they were told not to. But I'm not going to sit here and tell your listeners or even make the remote suggestion that they can't lose weight on Weight Watchers or Jenny Craig. But I'm going to tell you right now, you can take off a good amount of weight. You're most likely not going to come off all your medications for the diseases I mentioned. And you know what? There will be some that will be able to do that. But the vast majority of my patients were not able to. And I think I read a statistic somewhere that mentioned that the vast majority of people on Weight Watchers, it's just not sustainable. It's low fat. It's low calorie. Our bodies crave the fat. We need to eat that. It's healthy for us. So they'll fall off. They'll go back to eating the way they were eating. They'll gain the weight back that they lost through these particular programs. But my emphasis is that if you want to come off your medications, then you really need to embark on a low-carb regimen.
Right. So you focus on the carbs to help with weight loss and remove the drugs. But low-carb diets work better for males and females. Do you think that is correct?
Absolutely false. It is true that females do have a slower weight loss with low carbs. This has been my experience. Males do tend to lose weight quicker. Both sexes, both genders will take off significant amounts of weight. And you're reminding me now of a patient of mine, a wonderful lady, who disappeared from me for about 6 or 7 years, and she weighed close to 400 pounds last time I'd seen her. She resurfaced a couple of months ago in my office, and she asked if I recognized her, and of course I didn't, because she had lost 185 pounds doing low carbs. Did she have bariatric surgery? No. She looked at me and she said, "Doc, I'm so proud of myself, and I'm so glad I listened to what you told me. It took me a couple of years, but I lost 185 pounds, and let me tell you something. I mean, it was a totally different person." And she, now she's a type 1 diabetic, so yeah, she still needs to take her insulin and all, but much, much less. She's much better controlled, sugar-wise, and a lot of the other medical problems, hypertension, things like that, high blood pressure, heartburn and all. had disappeared. Low-carb diets work for both genders. You just have to do it. You just have to do it.
Yeah, just what I mentioned earlier. You've got to address the roots of the problem, not just the appearance of the problem, not just change the symptoms. Well, I got about 30 seconds to go. Any final comments for my readers to take home?
Yeah, basically eating fat doesn't make us fat. Eating cholesterol and, saturated fat and fat, does not cause heart disease. Don't count calories. Exercise is important, but if you're morbidly obese or you're overweight, be careful with that because you could actually hurt yourself. And please do not listen to the organizations that continually promote low-fat, low-cholesterol. They are wrong.
Yeah, well, I agree with you. I think this is very, very important message for my audience. Well, thank you so much. I think I have used up all the time I have today. Before closing up today's show, I would like to thank Dr. James E. Carlson very much for sharing with us his great expertise in obesity and its related issues. I certainly will look for another opportunity to meet with him. Thank you very much, Dr. Carlson.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Sue.
All right. Bye-bye.
You have been listening to the Carbohydrates Can Kill show. If you enjoyed today's show, please leave a comment in the iTunes store or on our site. For complete show notes for this and all other episodes, please visit www.carbohydratescankill.com/podcast. This show is brought to you by JEV Publishing, the exclusive agent who promotes and distributes the books written by Robert Sue, MD. Special thanks to Ms. Linda Sue for performing the theme music and to Disc of Light Media, our producer.